Okay, a lot of people have been requesting this one, and I'll be the first to admit, I know fuck all about Mk1 Golfs. But when something means so much to someone and a group of people, you really kind of start to look at it in a different light. And sometimes you even kind of start to care about it yourself. In this instance, that someone is an entire country, and their love of the Mk1 Golf is so strong that it basically became one of their own. Quite literally, as they actually started to build it themselves. And the passion and love that South Africans show for the Mk1 Golf is truly inspiring. And I don't think a video has went by since we started doing this whole 50 years of golf thing where somebody from South Africa hasn't said, oh, please do a video on the South African Mk1 Golf. You guys are kind of like the Brazilians when it comes to artists or musicians, and you're like, come to Brazil on every single video they put up. That's literally you guys, and I love it. I'm all for it. We covered the Mark II Jetta living on in China, so now let's cover the Mk1 Golf living on in South Africa. As part of our 50 years of golf celebration, this is the story of the Citi Golf. We've said it about a million feckin' times now, but in case you didn't know, the Mk1 Golf replaced the Beetle in 1974 and became Volkswagen's bread and butter across the world. From 1974 until 1983, they sold millions of Mk1 Golfs all over the world until they perfected it with the Mark II Golfs. Kidding. Mostly. But this time, instead of the story being set in Wolfsburg, it begins much further down south. No, not Cork. South Africa. That's right, South Africa. VW and South Africa go hand in hand these days, but they weren't the first to venture into the country in search of automotive domination. That would actually go to the Americans. The big two Americans, as luck would have it, Ford and Chevy. With inventor of assembly line and questionable ties to the founder of VW, Henry Ford began visiting Port Elizabeth in 1923 to scout it out. In fact, from then until the 70s, basically everybody wanted a piece of South Africa's fine ass. With Toyota, Mercedes, Datsun and a plethora of British manufacturers all either building or planning to build factories there. Eventually though, all of these other manufacturers would fall by the wayside, whether it was due to the fuel crisis, economic reasons or what have you. By the end of the 1970s, the two biggest sellers in South Africa were the Mazda 323 and the Volkswagen Golf. A far cry from the big old Chryslers and Pontiacs that were reigning supreme not long before. But this was as much of a reflection of South Africa as it was the car scene. A country with a good heart, but unfortunately dragged down by poverty, wage inequality, racism and high crime rates. This was a place that needed the car of the people more than anywhere. And from 1973, Volkswagen was the best-selling brand in South Africa, and they hadn't even made the Citi Golf yet. Volkswagen's history in South Africa goes back a little bit further than 1973 though. In fact, almost as far back as the company itself, 1946. It wouldn't be until 1951 that the first cars would be built there though, and in August of that year, the first South African Beetle rolled off the assembly line. Fast forward to 1978 and South Africa was building its own Mk1 Golf, which had come out 4 years prior and was selling like hotcakes. Some of the tooling to build it was actually taken from the Westmoreland plant, which we talked about in our China video, as China wasn't going to need any of the Mk1 equipment. And what you will do now is you will make a mental note of that and you will go and watch the China video after this one. Chances are if you're here, you've already watched the China one. And if so, fuck yeah for being a returning viewer, thank you very much. Come 1984, Volkswagen had revealed their magnum opus, the Mark II, and that's not biased in any way, shape or form. However, this wasn't necessarily a good thing for the people of South Africa. You see, the Mark II, as we know now, is bigger and heavier and, crucially to South Africa, more expensive. Not ideal for a market where realistically cheap and cheerful is the order of the day. So what were they gonna do? Well, they did what I would do and they said, fuck it, we'll just keep building the Mk1, I don't care. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna stop me? I don't think so. We're gonna sell them things. And so, the Citi Golf was born. Okay, we interrupt this informational video to tell you about the t-shirts that we sell. Yeah, we have a web store, 427motorsports.co.uk. Every video that we do that's like a topical one has its own t-shirt to go along with it. This one, as you can probably guess, is inspired by, well, the Citi Golf. Here it is here. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you go and buy one. That's it. We make t-shirts that are maybe a wee bit more obscure than your average Tesco's Volkswagen t-shirts. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with them, because I wear them all the time, but sometimes you want one of a more obscure car, like a fucking Mercedes 123 wagon or a Citi Golf. I've done quite a lot of these shop videos now, and I'm starting to run out of things to say. So basically, here's the link. If you want to support us and help us do more stupid shit, go and buy t-shirts so we can buy more stupid cars to make videos on us working on them. We're trying to buy a Jeep at the minute so we can tow cars, which means we can buy even stupider stuff, so just imagine that. Anyway, back to the show. Right, before we go any further with this, I want a fucking round of applause here. It's fucking available in right-hand drive. Yes! Never fucking happens. Ever. We never get cool golfs. It just doesn't fucking happen. Finally, video that we're covering with a right-hand drive golf. Yes! Beginning in 1984 in Volkswagen's here plant in Eastern Cape, the Citi Golf was built alongside the Mark II Golf. The Citi Golf was actually only available as a 5-door with no 3-door. There was a reason for that, and that was because that meant they had enough space in the factory to make the Mark II alongside the Mark I, because they didn't need all the production line for us to have a body shell. Pretty smart. Initially, the plan was to keep making the Mark I Golf as is. No improvements, no refinements, just a cheap run around to keep the people of South Africa on the move. But then, even at the time, they thought, well, no, that's a stupid idea. People are just going to keep buying second-hand ones. Why would you buy a new one whenever it's no different? As such, the Citi Golf wound up getting a bit of a facelift. Bright colours and painted bumpers were the order of the day. Can't say I would be interested myself, but it is what it is. Other engines were also available, but for the most part, they came with the 1.3 engine that was fitted to the old Mark I Golf. Unless you got a Citi Sport, which came with a 1.6 unit, albeit carburetted, which later was then upgraded to a 1.8, which was then still carbed. So I assume that's the same engine that was in the Mark II. Eventually though, South Africa would get its own version of the GTI, called the CTI. What it stands for, I have no idea. City Turning Injection? Cape Town Injection? Who knows? Either way, it got fitted with the same setup as the Mark I GTI with the K-Jet fuel injection. The truly amazing thing though about the Mark I Citi Golf is just how long it lasted. Much like the Mark II Jetta in China, the Citi Golf lasted the whole way from 1984 to 2009. And also like the Mark II Jetta, it got some facelifting to keep it relevant, albeit much less drastic than the Mark II Jetta and probably a lot easier on the eyes. Also like the Mark II Jetta, probably the most drastic of all changes was in the interior, with a dashboard from a Skoda Fabia of all things completely transforming the cabin, along with a steering wheel and dash cluster that wouldn't really look out of place inside a Mark IV Golf. External changes happened too, making it look almost more like a Mark II Golf with bigger grille slats and deeper bumpers, alongside much more modern sort of brake lights, although they do look like someone was just playing Need for Speed Underground and decided to have a go on their Golf as well. Much like China with the Jetta, the number of improvements given to the Citi Golf over the years is insane. Whether it's reliability, emissions or refinement, the amount of love, care and passion they put into these cars over the years is nothing short of inspiring. Probably the most special Citi Golf of them all though, is the Citi Golf 1.8R. Right, before we get into this whole Citi R thing, a little bit of background. Now I know that whenever a Golf says R on it, that usually means it's got some crazy 3.2 fucking VR6 thing with 4-wheel drive and it goes like shit off a shovel. But unfortunately there is this trend in the automotive industry that I absolutely fucking despise, and that's called line. Basically they get a badge that looks identical to the highest model in the range, and in teeny tiny little writing underneath they say line. They're all show and no go. Inside is all the trinkets and accessories you could want, but when it comes to performance, there's bugger all. And I hate this so fucking much. Just make a new trim level. Like, VW aren't the only ones guilty of this, I just want to put that out there. Ford's guilty of it, BMW's guilty of it, Audi's guilty of it, fucking everybody does it. And it cheapens the higher models in the brand, because like AMG, M and R used to mean performance. Ford, back in the day, had their RS models, and you knew that meant it was something fast, something performance. They had the likes of the Ghia for the luxurious models, and people knew that. Even ST was the same in the early 2000s. But now people who don't necessarily know any better tell everybody they've got a Golf R or a Focus ST, when really they just have a highly spec'd feckin' base model. Now, I will say, all credit to Ford, there's no such thing as an RS line. They've definitely made sure that RS actually means something special, so you know what, props for that. But for the others, needs to fucking stop. Right now. Not that anyone's gonna listen to me, but I felt a lot better for having ranted, so you know what, fuck it. I know it's nothing new to complain about them diluting the M badge, the A and B badge, by putting it on everything, but like, there's gotta be some kind of distinction somewhere. Anyway, Citi Golf 1.8R, or shall we say the Citi Golf 1.8R line. With only 100 made, this extra special Citi was unveiled to the world in late 2006, with a plethora of goodies. They squeezed a bit more power out of it thanks to a spicier camshaft, exhaust system and some fettle into the fuel injection setup, as well as half-leather GTI style front seats and some fancier trim on the dash, plus the all-important red stripe mascara to the front. It did confuse some reviewers and some people as to why a country that survived on cheap runarounds needed a fast limited edition hot hatch, but much like Volkswagen in South Africa in the 70s when it came to this whole thing, they said, fuck it, let's just keep doing it. In August of 2009, the Citi Golf's legendary run sadly came to an end. But what this car left behind was something so much more important than sales figures. To the people of South Africa, this car meant the world. There's barely a person in South Africa that hasn't had some form of memory or experience with a Citi Golf. Whether that's being in the back seat of one as a kid, learning to drive in one as a teenager, or using one as day-to-day transport as an adult, to this day the Citi Golf is ubiquitous with the South African people and culture. It may have been replaced with a Citi Polo type thing in 2010, but with massive aftermarket support and unwavering passion, the Citi Golf is going to be around on South African roads for years to come. Thank you very much for watching this video on the Citi Golf. I know it's just a quick overview, but you know what? It's 50 years of golf. Gotta get those fucking videos out there. Yeah, hopefully that's satisfied everybody who's asked for a video on the Citi Golf. I didn't know anything about them. I never do when it comes to Mark 1s and Mark 3s and 4s and 5s and 6s. I just know Mark 2s. So it's actually been a great reason for me to sit and learn about each one. So I really enjoyed looking into the history of this. And the history of South Africa, which is a topic for a different channel, I think. So as always, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this, our talking videos in general and the garage videos. I really appreciate all of you who went. I've noticed the same like names popping up in the comments, commenting on the talking ones and then going and watching the garage ones who maybe wouldn't have watched them before. So it's really fucking cool to see, and it means so much to me and Conley to see everybody tuning in and just enjoying the shit that we get up to every day. So yeah, thank you very much. If you haven't already, subscribe and tell your friends or your Volkswagen groups that you're in. Or whatever, I guess. Yeah, I've been Tomo. This has been 427 Motorsports. Thank you very much. Good luck.